Hey, chuckle. Merry Christmas, but oh, excuse me. Merry Christmas, by the way. I chuckled because I was reading an email and I looked and it was 4:44, so I needed to get started here. Anyway, but it is Christmas Day, and this is the video for uh, Friday the 26th. Actually, Aristo asked me if we could wait until tomorrow to do our video, which is normally done on Thursdays. But being that it's Christmas today, we put it off a day. The title for the video that I'm doing now is War on Ignorance and Financial Tyranny. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? This war on ignorance and financial tyranny the ambassador talks about can only be won by telling the truth. This truth. Banks do not lend money. They get money, promissory notes, from uneducated people, deposit the note as an asset, then give the borrower, so-called, a receipt for the money note it received. Even though the receipt is called a loan, it is fraud. The loan was funded by the so-called borrower who unwittingly gave the bank an asset without even knowing it. By withholding the information, the bank committed fraud. No statute of limitations. The government, in collusion with the banks, rubber-stamped the fraud, committing a breach of trust. Do you understand, people, that we are the value, not money? The wealth comes from us, not from banks or governments or corporations. We have been swindled for a long time, for a long, long time. Much of what I said in that blurb was a post that I put on Facebook last evening. And it was a post where I also linked an article that was sent to me, which I had seen previously, probably a couple years or more ago. I don't know when exactly. But it was a dialogue that supposedly took place between an attorney and a bank official, in which the mechanics, the modern money mechanics of modern banking, was displayed that when a customer comes in for a loan, paperwork is signed. And the most important thing there is a promissory note that is signed that the customer is going to labor and return that investment. But here's what happens. Here's what happens, folks. This is hard for most people to get because we've been so hoodwinked and lied to for so long about how things work in this world that when we're told the truth, it sounds so far out that nobody wants to believe it. But the truth is, and this is in banking documents, this has been testified to time and again. It is the truth. It is truth that is capable of setting us free. And if we're going to stop financial tyranny, this is a truth that we have to address and address head on. The promissory note is the money. Not the check. That's a receipt. Not even if they were to give us cash. In this modern society, cash is a debt instrument. And what is the debt? The debt is a payment for ignorance. Okay, it's a payment for ignorance. Debt is not real. It's something that is contrived, something where one being or individual convinces another that they owe something, and that the one that they owe it to is the authority. This is all a deception. This is the root of financial tyranny. Nobody owns us. unless we refuse to take responsibility for our own selves. But we have taken responsibility in a way, but we've done it ignorantly. It's the war on ignorance. You need to know that your signature on a promissory note is the creation of money. That paper is money. That has value. That is sold in the marketplace. Not just once, but multiple times. And people invest in those promissory notes, which are assets to banks and corporations and governments. When a government borrows money, when the government is the customer of the banker, the government gives the banker bonds. And the bond is the same as a note. The bond is something of value in the system that is traded for more currency. And the current keeps flowing. But it's all a fraud. Because the value comes always not from the one we think of as the lender. The lender is a shyster. The lender is a con artist. The lender is a racketeering criminal. The borrower is simply ignorant of who the borrower is, of who we are. We are ignorant of that. We don't realize that it is our creativity, our labor, even our promise to produce and to share and to be part of a culture, of a society. It is that which gives value to everything. Money by itself, even promissory notes by themselves, have no value if we're unwilling to serve one another. Because it's in serving one another that we create a society in which we are enriched, in which we are empowered. But when we don't know who we are, when we don't know where the value comes from, when we think it comes from the banks or the government or some institution or some piece of paper or even coins, we deceive ourselves. That's why I get so frustrated with people that think that money is going to resolve the issue. No, knowledge is going to resolve the issue. Truth is going to resolve the issue. When we know the truth of who we are and how things work in this world, in a human society, or even a society of extraterrestrials or whatever, when we understand how life works, that it works on an interdependent cooperativeness, not a competition. We've turned everything inside out, upside down, turned it backwards so that everything is distorted and everything is a lie. And that's the reason why the world is in the mess that it's in. Because we have people who have learned how to become very, very good liars. We call them lawyers, attorneys. We call them bankers. We call them CEOs. We call them presidents. And we allow them to convince us that they have authority, that they control the wealth. But the only wealth they control is lies. That's their wealth. Their wealth is falsehood. Their wealth is deception. Their wealth is a con. It's a fraud. And as I said in the blurb, there is no statute of limitations in any lifetime even for fraud. Fraud is going to come back like a boomerang, and it's going to get whoever creates the fraud. Because truth has to win. I believe that's a cosmic law of some sort. That ultimately the truth has to come out. And the truth sets people free. And so the ambassador, myself, and many others around the world in high places and low places, are waging a real war on ignorance, trying to help people see who we are and how we have been defrauded, how we have been disempowered, how we have been impoverished in our life experience because we refuse to listen, we refuse to be educated. And of course, the con artists are going to keep the game going as long as they can keep it going. They're living high on the hog, footloose and fancy free. They're able to convince us to give them the wealth and pretend like they are giving us the wealth. They've turned everything backwards. Nothing is what it appears to be. And until we understand that we have been lied to in our religions, in our political structures, in our corporate structures, in our commercial endeavors, we have been lied to in our science, in our medicine, in our education systems, in our media. Everything is based on a lie to keep the structure of the status quo in place that draws the life force out of us and enslaves us. And we're enslaved by ignorance. And it's one thing to be ignorant because no one ever told you. It's another thing to have someone like me, day in and day out, telling you the truth, and you turn and you don't want to believe it. I've had conversations with people that simply cannot believe the truth of what I'm telling you about the world that we live in. They just do not want to believe that it is what I'm saying. But folks, it is what I'm saying. You know, I look at the numbers on my videos, and when the ambassador shows up with me, we get lots of people looking at it because he has authority, right? Or people think he has authority, or he claims to have authority, or whatever. He's a good guy. He has a good vision, like I do. But I explain way more than he does about how things really work. Now, he understands the system and how the system works. But again, sometimes when he talks like the family owns the gold. And others are only keepers. Well, the truth of the matter is, we are all entrusted with the wealth that we commonly share, and it belongs to all of us. Some people in the family get that, and they realize that they are entrusted with the tokens of wealth called gold and the paper receipts for those assets and properties, which we are property, but we have value because we're not just inert property, we are creative property. We are property capable of changing the environment. Unlike most other creatures, we have abilities far beyond what we believe we have, what we've been told we have. And we've been hoodwinked. We've been shackled by our own ignorance, imprisoned by the poverty of our own awareness or lack of awareness. And we perish for lack of knowledge. We perish because we embrace the status quo of our ignorance rather than looking into the matters that could actually liberate us. When you understand who you are, when you understand and you call banks on their shit, and you call the governments on their shit, and the corporations, and the system, and all the people that think that they are in authority, all the beings that think they are the rulers, when you call them on your shit, on their shit, and you own your own shit of being ignorant, then you're on your way to becoming free. It's going to take some time because there's a tremendous amount of resistance to the truth, because the lie has made some people very rich and powerful in the eyes of the people of the world. It's a false power, it's a false enrichment, but it's something that most people believe, and therefore it has force. And it's by force that it maintains its position. The status remains the same because we believe the lie. When are we going to understand that the war on ignorance and financial tyranny is where we have to put our focus if we're going to become free and co-create a world of cooperation that works for all of us, that we serve one another, that we love one another. As Putin said, love is the most important thing. This time of the year, love and family, these are the important things. These are the important things. I'm trying to tell you the truth. I'm trying to get you to understand and see that we the people, have to take responsibility and take control of our own individual lives back and say to those that are the swindlers and the con artists, no more. We have to say no. No is more important than yes. It's more important to stand up for what we don't want so that we can then create what we do want. But the no has to come first. Has to come first in our battle for freedom. And the truth, only the truth, ultimately can set us free. Thank you for listening, and Merry Christmas. Namaste.